So because Hawaii is such an expensive place to live in, I thought I'd share how we've managed to live in Hawaii with just one income. And no, the answer isn't I just make plenty money. That's not the answer. I mean, I'm very blessed to have the job that I have and the salary that I earn, but it's more than just making a lot of money. There's a lot of other things that we do as a family to help us survive in Hawaii. And so I just want to share 3 things that we've been doing. And right now, as we're transitioning from a 1-income household to a 2-income household, I also wanted to share my feelings on that transition. And maybe for anyone out there who is currently in a 1-income household and maybe wants their spouse, their partner to work, maybe that part of the discussion will be interesting to hear from just somebody else. So here we go. And by the way, I'm very, very proud of my wife for starting to work.
Hello from Hawaii.
Whew, boy, it's hot. So the first thing, and probably the most important thing, is that we budget. I think a lot of people don't budget, and so it makes it more difficult for them later. And all budgeting to me is just accounting for where all the money is going. It's not like making moves and doing all these things. Basically, from the start of our marriage, by the time that I married my wife, we've always talked about our budget. Every month we talk about this is how much we spent on certain categories, and then we have to make any adjustments for the following month or any upcoming holidays. So what that's done for us is it's made sure that we know where the money is going. And so how this really plays out for us is we have our basic categories. We have our mortgage, we have our groceries, cell phone bill, electricity, we have some fun money. We also have money that we put away to the side. And of course, as we've had kids now, we have money for them, for diapers, for supplies, as well as now preschool tuition. And there's definitely some months where we do happen to go over the budget in certain categories. And so we talk about it and we make certain adjustments. For example, we recently increased our food budget, which was low for a long time. But since, we're having kids and they're eating a lot more these days, I mean, you got 2 growing boys. Yeah, they eat a lot of cereal. Our budget has had to increase because of that, and that's okay. But I think it's really important, especially here in Hawaii, to just be held accountable. And that accountability is really just for yourself. So if you do happen to eat out a lot, you see that eat out category, you're like, whoa, that's a lot of money to go in and eat out. And it doesn't mean that people can't eat out. I mean, we have money to go and eat out each month as a family. For a family of 4, it's usually about 2 to 3 times, and it's usually not anything super fancy, but that's the money that we've allotted for that. But I do think it's important to just know where everything is going and how much you spend on certain things. And I know that there's some local families who don't budget. Maybe they make so much money that it doesn't really matter, or they don't think that it really matters. But for me, I just want to know where all the money is going. I should also mention too that any of the money that I get from this YouTube channel that is through ads or anything, we don't count that into our base budget. Now, we do pay taxes for it, so there's that. But I don't rely on that money to pay for anything. Everything that we have budgeted for, tuition, the mortgage, electricity, all of that, that's just budgeted based on the money from salary, from my salary and now my wife's salary. And that's the way that we've always kept it, because I told my wife that when it comes to YouTube money, that can fluctuate up and down. There were some months where my YouTube money could pay for our mortgage and more, and I was like, oh wow, it's so great, but that's not consistent, and that's something that I don't want to build into our lifestyle. And I think that's a very conservative approach to budgeting, but one that I think has helped me not to rely so much on that money, so that when I create videos, it's really kind of just for fun. And for any people who are living in Hawaii, I'd highly encourage just starting a budget. Maybe it's just very, very basic and you're just throwing some ballpark numbers, but just to keep track of that money each month. Because when you look at that amount, whether it's for gas, whether it's for eat out, whether it's for fun money and for spending, I think people would just be kind of surprised when they have to look at the amount that they spent. But I really think it's a good discipline to have, and one that I want to make sure that we pass on to our boys. Because the way I look at it in terms of affordability in Hawaii, you either make more money or you try to cut back on expenses. And I think budgeting really helps sort of, at least with the cutting back and organizing of expenses. Maybe not cutting back so much, but at least organizing so you know where your money is going. So you're not paying for extra things and subscriptions and all this stuff. And then you're wondering, why is it so tight? Why are things so expensive? And it also helps with purchases too, so that there's not as many impulse buys. You know, like when I see something I want, it's like, oh, I really want that. I really want that. But then I look at my budget. I look for let's say it's just for me. It's my fun money. I'm like, whew, it's gonna take me, you know, maybe 4 or 5 months to save up for that, and that's okay. Then I can just put it in my wish list and hold on to the idea. And when I do have the money, I can go ahead and buy it. But to me, this is probably the most important factor in how we've been able to manage. Is we've made sure to keep count and just stay accountable to ourselves on what we're buying, on where the money goes. Oh, it is hot. All right, now the second thing that we've done to survive in Hawaii on just one income, and that is to cut expenses. And I know people don't like that when you're talking about budgeting and trying to get rid of a lot of expenses, but we've really done a good job, I think, on cutting a lot of overhead expenses for our family. In other words, we've prioritized what's important for our family, and we've really cut out a lot of things that they may be nice to have, they may be even good, but we just can't afford it now. And so it just gets cut. Now, some of the key ways that we've done this, particularly in Hawaii, is we have no car payment. I've been driving the same car since I've had in college 20 years ago, and it's still running strong. That car is paid off, so we have no car payment every month. I know a lot of families have probably maybe two car payments. And on top of that, there's car maintenance and gas and all those other things. And maybe we're gonna need 2 cars very soon. But I really don't want a car payment because it's so freeing not to have to pay every single month. I know a lot of people like new cars here in Hawaii. They like new trucks, they like the new electric vehicles and Teslas and all the things. They want the new Lexus SUV, and I see them a lot here in downtown. And if you can afford it, that's absolutely wonderful. But for me, I've never really cared so much about buying a car to make a point. That's just not important to me. And so we've both agreed, talking with my wife, that car rep is not that important. As long as the car works and has AC and it's safe, good enough for us. It doesn't have to look a certain way, it doesn't have to project any type of image. And I know that saved us, I think, a lot of money. Of course, credit cards get paid off at the end of every month, so we're not carrying over any interest. And any new upgrades on things like cell phones or electronics or anything like that, you know, they pump out new versions every single year. It has to be an emergency. So the last time I got my phone, I think it was 2 years ago, and it was because my phone prior to that broke. And then I bought that phone when my phone broke before that. So basically it's whenever my phone breaks, that's when I buy the new phone. I'd love to buy a new cell phone, but I realized, well, I don't really need it. It'd be nice, but I don't need it. And anytime we do make these types of purchases, we pay cash right there. No financing, no monthly payments, just we got the cash, we're gonna pay for it, because I just don't want that monthly recurring payments. Even though maybe it's more affordable, I just rather have the money up front. I rather save for that, knowing that we're gonna need that someday. And the final reason I think that we've been able to make it in Hawaii with just one income is stable housing. Now, I wouldn't have thought that this would have been that big of a deal when it comes to affordability in Hawaii, but owning a place here makes it so that we don't have to worry about rent going up and other costs. There are definitely some costs to owning a home, owning a place here in Hawaii, but the fact that this is like our place, there's some comfort, there's some stability, and I didn't realize how much that stability plays into affordability in Hawaii, because we know our costs. They're pretty much fixed for housing, at least. They're pretty much fixed costs. And what that does is it helps to build a framework for our particular budget because it's so reliable. And on top of that, we're not paying rent to somebody else while also trying to save for our own place. I think that's very difficult. And for the families who are trying to do that, who have done that, boy, I can imagine how hard that would be. But I do know that's not everyone's situation, that some people do have to rent, or maybe they even live at home. But for those living at home, I hope they recognize how much of a savings that is, and hopefully they can use that extra savings to save up to maybe one day buy their own place. But in Hawaii, I think if you own a place or you are living at home, having that stable housing makes a very big difference on affordability. It makes it so that you could have technically one income and probably be okay. Okay, now just some comments on being the sole income earner for a long time in our family, and then now my wife, working, and this may be for people who could be in a very similar situation. I grew up here, I'm a local boy. I always thought that when I was gonna get married, my wife, whoever that was, would also work, because it seems like everybody in Hawaii is 2 incomes or 4 incomes for the household, right? Everybody is working so much just to, pay the bills and to survive here. So that was just an assumption that I would marry someone and, she would work, and, we both have full-time jobs. But when I got married, that wasn't the case. And then we had a couple kids, and so it made more sense for my wife to stay home. But now that both kids are in school, she is now working. And so speaking from that position, I'm so thankful now to have that second income. It may not be the same as my income, and that's okay. But just the fact that my wife is contributing as much as she is, it takes a lot of the pressure off of me. And maybe maybe somebody out there needed to hear that, but I didn't mind working. But just having somebody else kind of back me up and support and sort of throw money into the treasure chest, it's just maybe even just mentally, it means a lot. Being the sole income earner all these years has kind of felt like I'm the one in the canoe and I'm the one rowing the canoe. And when it was just me and my wife, she's just sitting there, and I'm the one rowing the canoe financially. Now that doesn't mean that my wife didn't do anything. She did chores and she kept our house together. But financially, it was just me rowing the boat. And then you add another kid, and then me also still rowing the boat. And there's the kid now in the boat, getting a little heavier. And then next kid, now it's the 4 of us, and still me rowing the boat. And not just physically, that can be tiring, but also just, I think mentally, it can be a little tiring, because as the only person working, there's a lot of pressure on you. You have to make sure that you do a good job, that you work hard, but also now you gotta be family person, right? You gotta be family guy. So I gotta come home after a long day, and I'm tired, and I'm hungry. But I know that when I come home and I got 2 young kids, I gotta be full-time dad. So as tired as I am, they don't know I'm tired, right? And I gotta give them my best. In fact, I gotta give them better than that, so that when I walk through the door, it's as if this is my first shift, right? This was my first job, and I just so happened to be doing something else prior to that. So having somebody else work really takes the pressure off, and has taken the pressure off of me. And I'm so thankful for it, because now it feels like my wife and I are both paddling this canoe financially, that we're both contributing, and it just makes me feel good in this partnership. And so just to close, it is possible to make it in Hawaii with just one income, and you don't have to make uku billion bucks. I know I'm not a doctor, okay? I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a doctor, I'm just average worker, okay? But we've made it work through the ways that I mentioned in this video. But I also want to mention and point out that I've been very fortunate in my life. I've had things work my way, I've gotten lucky, and yes, I have worked hard, but it would be remiss of me to just say, oh yeah, it's all on me. Oh yeah, it's all on me. No, it's really not. I've had things turn out, that opportunities open up, that it's like, okay, and I took that step to enter that door, and it just so happened to work out. And of course, I've gotten a lot of help from people over the years, not just financial help, but just encouragement when I needed it, people who did things when I needed them to help me. And I think that really helped us as a family, living off of one income for a really long time. And so even though maybe people's circumstances may all be different, I do think that we're all presented certain situations that we can take advantage of, that you are presented opportunities and possibly even lucky situations, but it's still up to the individual to take those opportunities, to have the courage to do it. And they might fail. I've taken opportunities that have absolutely failed, trust me. But I do think it's important to recognize that we've all had opportunities. They may not be the same opportunities as everyone. It's not going to be the exact same. But we think we've all had opportunities and luck and people to help us. And I think it's important to remember that. And so to live in Hawaii on just one income, to me, is not impossible because we've done it. And I know other people who also have done it. It's not easy. You can't just get whatever you want, and you do have to make sacrifices. But it is possible. Okay, well, I gotta go do the dishes, and I think my son's about to wake up. But let me know what you think. Thanks for watching, and aloha.